Okay.
Yes, go live. And we're going.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to Pippa.
Yeah, we lost Pippa.
Oh dear. Hopefully she will show back up again because she's still showing in. No, she's not. Well,
Yeah.
oh yes, there she is. Admit.
Okay.
Okay. Pippa will be here in a second. So while Pippa is joining us, I am going to welcome everyone to our live chat about royal romance. I'm so excited you all are here. We have got such a great panel this month. And Carrie and I love these book chats. We like to read. She is my book pip officially. And we love to talk writing and reading with other authors. And so again, welcome. We're going to go basically around the room and introduce ourselves. And I will, basically call out your name and have you introduce yourself and let readers know what you write and where you live. So we'll start with Carrie because she's the first one on my top left on the screen. I don't know what y'all are seeing.
Okay, I'm Carrie Nichols and I write for Harlequin Special Edition, and I should have had one of my books here. Well, I do have this coming out in August. It's a reprint of His Unexpected Twins. It'll be on shelves August 23rd.
Okay, and Marcella, you're next.
Hello, I am Marcella, and I live on the Big Island of Hawaii, and I write for Presents as well as HQN. And my current title right now, this is actually the UK cover because I don't have my US copies yet because of publishing and shipping and things. But it's His Bride with Two Royal Secrets. So like Carrie, we got some twin action here.
I like it. I like it.
They're not as fun in real life, I promise.
Before we have Carrie introduce herself, I'm just going to do a couple of comments real quick. Jay Anderson says, hello from warm England, sunny warm England. Marcy McEachran. I know I just butchered your last name, Marcy. I'm so sorry. She is a friend from online and a sweetheart. She says, yay, hello from Blazing Hot Phoenix, Arizona. Oh my heavens, it is blazing hot there. And Aaron's reading room showed up. Oh, hello from Oregon. So good to see you all. I'm loving playing down right now. Awesome. And Marcy said I came close. Sorry, I'm excited. So next is Teri. Go ahead, Teri.
Hi, I'm Teri Wilson, and I write for Harlequin Special Edition, and I also write single title romance for Hallmark Publishing. Because I've had a few movies on the Hallmark Channel. So I don't have my latest things, but I have my latest royal things. So this is Once Upon a Royal Summer for Hallmark Publishing. It's a theme park princess. It's a real life prince. And there's a follow-up coming this Christmas. And I do have one royal book that I wrote for Special Edition called The Princess Problem. Which I told them I wanted the cover to look like a Tiffany's ad, and they totally delivered.
Oh, wow.
And this book is $1.99 right now on Kindle. It's on a special, so I just want to point that out. But I love royal romance, obviously, Any Excuse to Go Tiara, and I am in San Antonio, Texas, where we're also boiling.
Okay, next is Teresa.
Hi, so I'm Therese Beharrie. I live in Cape Town, South Africa. And so we are on the opposite end of the temperature spectrum right now. We are so freezing cold, which is why I am in like really thick, while everybody's looking so nice and tropical and summery. I write contemporary romance and paranormal romance, I think I can call that, since, I have a ghost book coming out in September. And I have my royal books that I wrote for Harlequin Romance behind me. I too love royal romances. I am very fascinated by the topic in general, so I'm very looking forward to this chat. And if I cut out, it's because in South Africa, we are having some power issues and electricity kind of comes and goes. And that's what's happened to me. So if you see me go, that is why I'm gone.
Thank you, Teri. Okay, and Jadesola, you're next.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jadesola James. I live in Abu Dhabi, where it's currently about 9:40 at night and it's 90 degrees, so it is hot. But I have the AC blowing directly on my head. I feel very good right now. My latest romance is for Harlequin Presents, and it's also a royal romance. It's called The Princess He Must Marry. I adore this
I
cover.
loved.
I can't wait to get the physical copies. And I'm so happy to be here.
I love that. Okay, Pippa, you're next.
Hi, I'm Pippa. I write for Harlequin Presents, and my current book, or the book that's coming out in August, is Claimed to Save His Crown, which I think is that's up the wrong way around for you guys, which concludes the Royals of Svardia trilogy, which I have loved writing. I live in the UK, and I was going to complain about the heat, but I'm not going to anymore, because even when we're having a heat wave, it's not anything like what you guys have. So I'm slightly shiny and hot, and I'm used to the heat. I don't react well.
What's the degree? What's the temperature there?
Well, it got up to, I can't remember, it's going to sound really pathetic now, but it got up to about 30 the other day, which is too
That's
much
hot.
for me.
I
mean,
I love it because you and I are speaking in degrees Celsius and everyone else is like Fahrenheit. So I have no idea what 90 degrees Fahrenheit is.
Oh,
Disclaimer.
Terry's got a chart because we talk about the weather all the time. And
Okay.
I'm always complaining. And it doesn't matter whether it's cold, I'm complaining. If it's hot.
No,
I'm
but 30
complaining.
degrees is
I
very
think it would be
hot. So.
32 in Celsius.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's,
Yeah.
it's like,
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
yeah, we're hot. But it's,
Well, I'm Lucy Monroe, and I write short category romance too. I wrote for Harlequin Presents for a long, long time, and I am now doing indie books. And my latest is Her Off Limits Prince, which is a royal romance. And I'm going to read a few more comments real quick, just so that we can. Half of Mo said, "You have a tiara." I'm sure talking to Terry. That is so extra. Love romance writers. And I love being extra too. I think it works. Dipagram says, "Hello from Los Angeles, California." Susan Wilson says, "Hi, everyone." And Susan Wilson says, "Love a good kidnapping." Yeah.
Ooh.
I was reading that scene this morning and I was like this, and I would, oh yeah, it's such a good book. It's a good book. You want to read that book. Anyway. Okay, y'all. This is so fun. Oh, Marcy saying it's been about 43 degrees Celsius, 110 Fahrenheit here every day.
no, I'm out.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, no, that's.
That is hot, right?
That's
That is hot.
It's hot. Yeah.
My
That's
sister and I were
pretty
talking, and I was saying I want to go to Egypt, but her and her husband have been doing. I'm like, I love y'all, but I don't get it. They went to Florida in the middle of summer, and they went to Hawaii in the middle of summer these last 2 years. And I said, look, I want to go to Egypt, and I would love if we could go together and do this trip and see some of these ruins and things that we've been studying for years. But I am not going in summer. It is not happening. There's just no way. It's going to be fall or winter, and then we can go. And she's like, yeah, that probably makes more sense. I'm like, yeah.
I have a son in Hawaii. I said, I'll visit you in the winter, and a son that's moving to Chicago. I said, we'll come visit you in the summer.
Right. It's just like, oh, but let's talk royal romance and why we love to write them. Like, what? I hope I'm not stealing. I felt like that was my question. And I'm like, I can't remember. You guys, it's been a week. And so please bear with me. But why do you like to write? What drives you to write that royal romance? What is the best part of it, I guess? I don't know. And if I stole your question, oh my gosh, somebody slapped me. Seriously.
Well, I guess I'll go ahead and answer.
Sure.
I love royal romance. I actually, when I first started reading romance, that's what I read at the very beginning. And it was when Lady Diana and Prince Charles got engaged when I was in middle school. And I just thought it was like the most romantic thing I'd ever seen. And I remember a book that I read back then. Like I said, I think it was my very first romance. And I don't remember what it was called, but it was basically Prince Charles fan fiction.
Love it.
Hardback.
As the English person in the room, I'm going to.
It's like, what?
Okay, this was probably like in 1980, okay? A while ago. But it was about, someone who like met someone and fell in love and then found out that it was Prince Charles. And that is like my favorite trope ever. Like regular girl meets a guy, falls in love, and then finds out that he's a prince, and then it's like the worst thing that's ever happened to her. Which I'm just like, that is just catnip for me every time. So I've been in love with royal romance, way back since then. So that's how I first got into it, I guess, because I was fascinated with the real life royal family from England. And then that's kind of how I started reading romance and fell in love with it too. So that intersection has just always, that's my origin story as a romance author.
I love that. I will jump in on my own question and say I started writing romance. I had an idea for like a series, and it was my Royal Bride series, and it was set in it's like the Scorsese Royal Brides, and I wanted to make my own world. And one way to do that in contemporary fiction is to write a royal romance. You can create the world with the rules in it that you want to have, and you can have like the norms. Things can be different than they are in the real world, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to write a story that didn't fit the real world, but it would fit if I made my own country and made my own backstory to this royal family. And that's what I still love about writing it, is that I get to create the worlds I write in, that yes, there are certain norms about royalty, but you get to say what the rules are for yours when you create your own country. And I love doing that. I think I'm kind of control freak. Anyone else want to answer that one?
Piggybacking on what you just said, I think some of the fun of writing royal romance is the freedom and the control. Like you, not just as in creating the structure, the country, the government, the way everything works, but also the ultimate control of the characters, because royals have a certain amount of freedom and leeway, especially in a book that you're writing, that can allow them to just kind of overcome obstacles, toss out real world concerns in a way that gives you a lot of freedom to write. And then also probably gives you characters who they're so high that they have a lot to learn, and maybe some big falls to have. And that's always fun too.
For me, like, I think it's the big fall, because for me the royal relationship it raises the stakes of the relationship, or of the impact of the relationship. So it's not just a hero and a heroine in the kind of like the small bit, the family. It's like it has impact on people, and Juicy, and Juicy versus Desire is like my catnip. Like, it's just all involved with like self-sacrifice and all that kind of self-denial, which I just love, because I'm English and we're all about that. So but yeah, like those are my kind of it's how the relationship between the two just it's not just them, the stakes are just bigger and higher, and I think that's what I like about the kind of impact of the relationship.
For me, it's sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, for me, it's a lot about the fantasy of it. So I grew up on the Disney prince, royalty, all of this, and for me, it's so fascinating to kind of see that versus what's happening now, and to think of how to modernize that idea, especially with our current sort of climate that we're seeing with royalty. So for me, the fantasy of actually going and having this world that I mean, I personally have not experienced the royal world. So I'm so like, I've made up this entire narrative about what you can expect from it, and that's what I enjoy exploring in my books. It's just that, and I think that gives you so much opportunity for romance, because and the same for me, why I write really wealthy heroes sometimes and main characters in general, is because I want to just think of what is the most romantic, fantastical thing that I can do to these characters, and put that in something which, especially in category romance, is just so amazing to explore, because you have a really tight-knit, intense, emotional romance, and you have the chemistry. And so that's what I love about it, and why I love these romances in particular. So
I love that. I am just really quick going to hop in with some comments. Jay Anderson said, I stand with Pippa. And I'm trying to remember what the comment was when it popped up. I'm so
I
sorry.
see the Prince Charles thing.
I think
Raising
it's
the
Prince
stakes.
Charles. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
Prince
got it.
Charles.
It was that.
Or maybe
Erin
she
said-
agrees that the Prince Charles thing is a bit rough.
It's,
The fan fiction.
it's really funny, 'cause especially when you, I mean, isn't that the fascinating thing? The act. I mean, I think that's what shows how much of a lure the fantasy of the royal is
Mm.
versus
Yes.
the reality of Prince Charles marrying an 18-year-old Diana.
Right.
She was
No.
18, that girl.
Yeah. No.
And I'm gonna dial it down before I get like banned by the British.
Before we start with the real
Yeah,
discussions here.
We're just gonna leave it there.
Yeah.
Not
My
even gonna
youngest
go now,
son was
Andrew.
in first grade when Princess Diana died, and he was watching all the pomp and circumstance on TV, all that. And I want to be king of England when I grow up. My husband said,
Oh.
you can't. And he said, well, why? And my husband said, because your mother isn't royalty. And he was mad at me for like a whole week. Because I wasn't.
you under the bus.
He blamed you.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
But I love that. That's the
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
that's how alluring and how overriding the fantasy
Yes.
of the kind of, I don't know, what is it? I don't know what the
was,
kind of
you know,
allure of
yeah.
it is.
And the uniforms and the horses.
Right.
and
All
the-
of it. It's that pageantry is just, it's
yeah.
But I wonder if it is that, like the pageantry, the history, the
Yeah.
sense of legacy that comes with it, that
Yeah.
kind of that you can
Yeah.
get drawn in, but also like, isn't it like our original fairy tales? It's what we're told from from the year
for
dot.
sure.
Those are the fairy tales. Those are the first stories we're told about royals,
Right.
bizarrely. But
And now we
we
get
should
to
really
tell
think about what we're telling our
them.
kids. But
But we tell a new story now, and we create the world, the one that I guess we want to see. We don't want to see that teenager married to that older man who's got two
Mhm.
on the side, and like it's. I'm going to pop in with a couple more comments real quick.
Scandalous.
Sorry. Erin said, royal romances make it fun to get lost in problems that I will never deal with in my own life. There is also a majesty, and that I think that's about it, that just makes you feel so good. And then Marcy said that Prince in Disguise trope is one of my teen daughter's favorites. And Bree is here from Categorically Romance. Hi, Bree. And Dippergram said, I have been reading Harlequins for 52 years. Yes, my mother's friend gave me a book for Christmas. I was hooked. I love happy endings. Let's see. I want to make sure I'm not missing any other comments. And no, they're all chatting with each other, so that's okay. So if anyone else wants to pop in with a question, that'd be awesome.
Well, I feel like we're kind of in this thing. So my question was, we've just talked about what makes royal romance kind of romantic, what makes that appeal. What makes a royal heroic? Because with that position, it can be easy for them to actually not be that heroic. So how do you make a royal who has all this power, who has all this stuff just handed to them? How do you make that heroic?
For me, it comes back to self-sacrifice. That's the kind of, that I think is when I'm writing it, I have to figure out on many levels what they are going to sacrifice, because they are going to prioritize the people. It's actually like, I actually don't like, in the sense that they've got in their head, they have to prioritize the people, but their emotional journey for me has to be a balance between the two, because they're not being authentic to themselves, and then they won't be a good ruler. That was kind of a lot, sorry.
No, that's great. That's great.
No, I agree. I was gonna say, for me, they need to be like, you have to give them traits that make them relatable. So obviously, it's again that balancing act of making the fantasy part of it there, and especially the power part of it for me personally. And then you also have to make them kind of have real characteristics. Like, I always go into writing a royal romance and also reading it with my baseline question, which is, do they care about their people? Because if they do, then, you know, you're going to have the sacrifice, you're going to have real kindness, which is really important for me. You know, so I love the drama and all of that comes with it, but I just want to know, as a person, would it be someone that I like and would find admirable? And that makes them heroic to me.
Mm-hmm.
I think too, they also need to stand up for the heroine. Because in a lot of royal romances, you know, you have the commoner heroine and the royal hero, and some of the conflict comes with her adjustment, you know, walking into his world, and just a balance between respecting his legacy and standing up for his people, but also standing up for the heroine if she has a hard time fitting into his world. I love that part.
For sure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That's funny because a friend of mine, she did a this or that, and she's like, do you like the hero who stands up and says all these really great things about the heroine, or would you choose the hero who says all those great things to the heroine? She's like, I know we all love both, but like, what's your favorite? And I'm like, the hero who stands up and says all those cool things about the heroine. Like, I like to see that all the time. It's not that I don't want him to say it to her, but man, I love that scene. And it's not just the hero. It could be any main character. It can be the heroine. It can be, if you're in a same-sex romance, whichever one of those characters. I just love that moment when that main character stands up and says, I think this person is all that and then something, you know, like that. I love that moment. Sorry, that's what makes heroic to me. It's like, definitely is where, if they're willing to do that, they're willing to stand firm, I think, particularly against family pressures, or, you know, like, not just so societal pressures, but really more intimate pressures, whether it's family or close friends, and they're willing to stand and say, no, this person is my person. That makes the character very heroic to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I love it.
Well, I think that kind of almost could tie into, I think, the question I was thinking of, because Lucy, you mentioned that was your favorite scene to kind of see or to write, but I mean, I think there are so many different stories out there, but there are definitely key scenes for me when I'm reading the royal romance, and I was wondering what your favorite scenes were to write in a royal romance.
Ooh.
Makeover scenes are fun.
Mm-hmm.
Those are always fun for me.
Yeah.
Cinderella Dream.
Yes, definitely.
And there's so much scope for just humor and touching moments, and really for the individual to realize that perhaps they can do what they thought they couldn't. It always brings to mind one of my favorite royal romances, Princess Diaries by Meg Cabot, which I read, you know, when I was much younger, and I kind of spent a lot of my adolescence on those books. And she does such a good job of just weaving the transformation over the entire series, really. You know, there's not just that, oh, pretty clothes and hair and makeup, but she transforms on the inside as well as the outside. And it's something that I love seeing in both, you know, a heroine, a hero, whoever. That transformation is really important for me.
I love that, actually. Yeah, it can be really fun.
And it's one of the less kind of intense parts of it. Mm-hmm. Like, it's one of those light-hearted moments that kind of makes you also have joy and excitement about it, instead of like real tension part, which is what my favorite part is like when we have these, like, I love it when they realize, oh crap, this is actually forever. Like, I really love this person, and so we're gonna have to figure out how this is going to work. So for me, because that moment is always like the moment of intense passion, and you get to see the chemistry, and you get to see the real, like, emotional side of it. And the confusion, like, oh no, what do I do now? Because, you know, because it lends itself to those moments of, should I stand up for my partner? What do I stand up for our relationship, for our love? Where does all of this fit in with my duty? So I love those moments.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say, I really love that moment in The Princess You Must Marry, which is one of the more recent books that I read. I loved it, just so you know. It's Jadesola's book, and it was like you had the chemistry and the intensity of that book was so well done. And I just wanted to say it before I get cut off, so that everyone goes to go buy the book as well. So yeah, that's my favorite, and I got to talk about the book that I wanted to talk about.
Thank you.
Thank you for writing.
I love that. We do have a couple of questions from the commenters. I'm just going to throw one out there. Sorry, it's scrolling pretty fast. Bree asked, do you all remember the first royal romance you read that made you realize you wanted to write one yourself? And we kind of talked about what we loved about writing royal romance, but I don't know that we all talked, I know Teri did, about that first kind of royal romance you read that really was like, whoa, I really love this. And so if anybody wants to throw a question, an answer to that.
I have it right here.
He's like, I got that for you.
This Once a Princess by Joanna Lindsey. Brie will know this. This is Joanna Lindsey is my like avatar. I love her so much. But Once a Princess was the very first royal romance I ever read. I even read it before I read The Princess Diaries. It's so great. And it has a lot of the features that we've talked about today. So the heroine is the princess. She is from a fictional Eastern European country, and it's very like Anastasia-esque. So there's been upheaval, and she's ended up. They think she's dead, but she was actually squirreled off to the U.S. But there was a problem in the way. So she ends up getting raised in like a Western tavern, and it's a historical. And so
this sounds amazing.
No, it's fantastic. It's so good. And the thing she in this tavern, she's actually quite beautiful, because all of Joanna Lindsey's heroines are like unreal looking. And she wears disguises. She's always wearing a disguise, like prosthetic nose and like scars and stuff. Like she's like full on hiding the way she looks to protect herself in this tavern. And the prince comes and he like snatches her up, but she doesn't believe him. She refuses to believe that he's actually a king and that she's actually a princess. And so she spends like the bulk of the book desperately trying to escape him, because she thinks he's just kidnapping her and taking her away. And so I mean they have her on a riverboat, and she jumps off the boat, and like she's like, it's so outrageous, but in jumping off the boat her disguise melts away, and it turns out that she's just this stunning creature. But then the king is like, once he sees this, he's been in an accident where he got a fight with a wolf as a young man, and so he's got like scars, and he's all like tied up about his scars.
Send me the link. I'm buying it.
No, it's outrageous. It's outrageous, and she never stops. So like we read it. We got a chance to read it for our book club, and it was really great because she just never stops, and she's so determined. Yeah. But and that even kind of a little in the answer of the last question too is like, my favorite scenes in this are the scenes that are part of the process of the common person coming to terms with it. And that's, I think, my favorite scene in writing it even is the common person's journey of going from being a regular person to suddenly having a life that's about more than your own life. And I love that part. I love the transition, but this was the first I read. It's so good. I highly, highly recommend it. It delivers everything you want in a royal romance.
I've just realized I missed both of those realization scenes in my whole of the last one. Fail.
Next time.
Other stuff, it's fine. Still buy them, like still read them.
No, not every book has the same scenes, but those were. Marcella, I'm so glad you brought that book up, because when she asked the question, I was like, I don't remember the first royal romance I read. But when you started describing the story, I read that book, and I loved that book. I just loved it, because it was just like, there were so many layers to it, and she was so feisty and like. It's awesome. Anyone else want to answer that before we go on to the next question? Okay, I am going to throw another one out
I
there.
was gonna say mine is The Little Mermaid because I won it as a prize.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
And
Definitely.
my teacher wrote in it, and it was my favorite book. It's like the pages are like torn because I loved it so much. And that's still my original favorite Gerald romance.
I think mine would then be The Princess and the Pea, which I'm not
Yeah.
sure
Oh,
what that says
yeah.
about me.
That's
Might
sensitive.
explain my bedding choices. But,
Cinderella.
Actually, I love that. I love The Princess and the Pea because I love the concept of that. The idea that it's not the physicality of it, but the idea that inherently in that character, that person can be this unmovable reality. They are who they are, no matter what anyone else thinks or sees or whatever. Sorry, I went a little weird on that, but it is kind of, you know me, I always kind of go under. I'm going to go out of order a little bit because I'm going to give a comment and then I'm going to go back to another question they posted. Is that all right with y'all? Okay, so Craft Isabel, which is my daughter, she said, yes, Jadesola, I read all of the Princess Diaries series as a middle schooler, and mom, Lucy, was at a book signing where I actually got to meet May Cabot. Yes, that was the coolest. You know what? It was actually one of the highlights of my career because I thought, this is the neatest thing ever to actually make it possible for my daughter to meet one of her heroes, because I'm just in this big room with all these people, and Meg was so sweet. She was so nice. Okay, and the question is from Aaron. What is the most important part of writing the love interest who is not a royal? What do y'all think about that? And Carrie, you can just chime right in because you read all these.
Yeah, I read them. I don't.
You can
I don't
chime
write
in.
royal, but
You can absolutely
maybe
chime
I'll be
in.
inspired to write a royal.
No, because you know now that you can do it for special edition because it's been done.
Well, one of my favorite parts about writing the commoner who's coming into the royal world is showing what their unique attributes are that make them perfectly suited for the role. Like the things that they only have because they're a commoner, and how that is filling a void in the royal family that they didn't realize that they were missing because, you know, of their background versus her background, and how being a commoner makes him or her perfectly suited to actually step into that role. That's one of my favorite things about royal romance.
Yes, I love that.
One of my favorite parts of them too. That's it.
Yeah, I think the non-royal really gives you an opportunity, particularly when you're balancing power dynamics. It really gives you an opportunity to show different kinds of power, like to show that there's a power you can be born into, but there's also a power that you can cultivate, and that's what you get to kind of show with that character.
I like that.
I just wanted to, I think I'm reading these right. You guys, there's a lot of love for Pippa's book, FYI, which I am totally joining in on. But Brie is saying, oh gosh, don't get me started on Lycos. I'll cry just thinking of him. And I love Merritt buying ice cream for the kids in the street. And because I think up earlier, Aaron had talked about he gave Merritt and Lycos a pass on the age gap. But let's point out that Merritt was 22 and not 18 in this age gap. There is a difference when you're writing that kind of an age gap.
I mean, 4 years is very, important. That's significant.
Oh crap! Sorry, you guys. There's somebody keeps like signing in, trying to. I'm getting spammed in the comments. FYI. So if I look like I'm over on y'all, keep talking because I'm just like gonna get rid of this person. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry, it's driving me a little bit.
For those of you who've written a royal series, what's it like creating and sustaining that world over multiple books? Because with mine, I had two sisters who were princesses, but they go in vastly different directions. So it's like writing an epic royal romance. I'll put it that way, aside from a standalone.
I love it. It makes as a reader, I'm a firmly in the genre reader category. And so in addition to romance, I really, really love fantasy. And so as that kind of reader, as both a romance and a fantasy reader, finding a series, finding something to just like dive into and just not stop with is my favorite. So getting to do that, like getting to create an extended world is just, it makes me feel like all my dreams have come true.
I mean, I definitely loved it with the recent one. Although it's a fictional kind of Scandinavian country, but actually they move around a lot because it's presents. So they go to the exotic destinations and come back. So there's a lot of kind of like world hopping around it. But for me, like I get like, this is like, I get more interested in the landscape and the architecture, which probably says a bit worrying things about me, where I get to basically create this weird utopia of all my fantasy holiday destinations in one place. Like it'll have waterfalls and a desert if I want it, mountains, and like some Nordic kind of fjord that you can like take a boat across. And you know, it's just I fit all of my literally kind of holiday lusting dreams into kind of the setting. I love it. I'd basically be drawing maps if I could, because like Marcella, I'm like a fantasy reader as well, so it's that landscape and that world that really appeals to me.
I will say for me, it's the family dynamic. It's being able to really explore family relationships that are so difficult, especially in short category romance. But when you write several books in one series, then you really get into, like in the first book, you might learn this little thing about the dad or this little thing about the mom or whatever. And I love that. And it's something that I probably did a lot more series when writing category, because I love to include those little bits, but they are so hard to include if you're just doing a standalone, because you don't have the word count. So yeah, that's for me. That's the thing. I did want to really pop in just fast before anyone else answers that and just say, Bree said, Teri, your Once Upon a Royal Summer is brilliant.
Oh, thank you.
And she also said we need more Jadesola royal romances. So I think she's hinting that you maybe need to make this a series. And Marcy said, as a reader, I love revisiting familiar settings and or cast of characters. Me too. I do.
Lucy, I love what you said about family. So in my first published book was Stolen to Wear's Crown. So it was a royal romance as well. And in that one, the hero is the king. But in the next one in that series, The Stolen Innocence Vow, the heroine is the king's cousin. So she doesn't have the same pressure, but she is still from the same royal family. And it was really fun to kind of explore the ways being royal affected different people based on their position. So like as the cousin to the king, how her pressure is different than the king's was. And that was really fun to explore with the series. Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry. I think Pippa, you were going to say something. Go ahead.
Okay, that's okay.
I did the Princess by Royal Decree for Harlequin, and that was my last royal series with them. And I loved doing that. The first was the king, the second was the second in line, and the third was the youngest son. And it was such a different dynamic, right? Because each one of them had such a different role that he played. And yeah, I did love that. That is a really fun thing to do. I agree with you, Marcella. It's a lot of fun to look at the different aspects and how those characters would play out, because it's not always all about, the king and his concert, right? Sometimes it's about those peripheral people and Pippa, you're doing it brilliantly in the series, this one, because it's that same dynamic. Like,
and I think that's what I was going to say. In the Royals of Sfardi, you start with the middle sister, and then you go to the younger sister, and then you go to the king, and the kind of the impact. I mean, I don't think I'll be giving any of it too much away, but the middle sister is sort of under pressure to produce the spare in case the king doesn't. And but she finds out she is infertile, so it throws the whole kind of linear pressure, hereditary, and
definitely
powerful. I mean, obviously it's still a romance and there's things, but I was quite kind of, there's so much I mean, we could talk about pressure on women and reproduction till the cows come home, and probably best not to, but you know, I loved that it doesn't matter, they all have a sense of responsibility and duty. That responsibility can either make them or alienate them from each other, or bond them together. And by the end of the story, and I think someone's taking the bin out, so if it sounds like World War III, it's just a bin. I will be very quick. No, I can't. I'm just going to keep myself out. Okay, so by the end, how all the siblings come together and they start kind of at odds and kind of divided by that sense of duty. And I really wanted to tell a story where by the end of it, actually they're bonded by it. And
book 3.
Yeah.
I'm just like arc over here, just saying. No pressure.
Did you say, Teri, your next royal one was this Christmas, or?
Yes. So this one, Once Upon a Royal Summer, came out last summer. This Christmas, I have one called Once Upon a Royal Christmas.
Oh,
and
okay.
it's not necessarily a sequel, but it's very much the same. It's a children's party princess who wins a contest to go make an appearance at a Christmas festival in a faraway kingdom. And she and the country's crown prince, who's like a total Grinch. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love
That
it.
sounds totally wonderful.
Yeah, that's a great premise.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Sunshine and Grump has
Yeah. The Grinch at Christmas.
You know what's funny, Teri? I read your book with the amusement park princess.
Yes.
Who ends up, yes. So, and I really enjoyed that premise as well, because on a very micro scale, if you know anyone who's ever worked at Disney, or I don't remember if it was Disney in the book, but it was Disney.
Yeah.
And other people.
Yeah.
The fact that they, like, they're hardcore with their acting. Like, they can't break character. You know, no matter if a kid is hanging on to their leg or laughing or crying or, you know, trying to make them react. They don't break character. They're smiley, they're happy, they're waving, they're so on public display. So I just thought that was so clever, using that as a device to then catapult her into, you know, the actual royal world.
Yeah,
I love it. I actually want to.
What you're saying now about your new book just made me think of that one.
Yeah, and the training, that's a great example of that, how you take the commoner straight. How do you get your commoner ready to take on the new role that they are going to have? What a great selection of a place. I had a cousin who played Alice and at Disneyland, and then I also had auditioned. So it was with my friend. We went to an audition for Jasmine in the not walking around the park, but the show. My friend actually got called back, but it was such an interesting experience going to the audition because they really communicate to you. You're like, you're going to embody a child's dream for a minute. You're going to do that. And there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that. And it's actually genuinely a very great preparation for a real royal. Right? There's that idea of like really being like, you're not about yourself right now. Like, and that's really, what do you guys think is the hardest thing or the worst thing about writing a royal romance?
Titles. I mean, like, I swear, like, I don't know if it's His Royal Highness, Her Royal Majesty, like, I mean, I literally have a Wikipedia page like saved that talks about like even the British. I don't know. I'm like, I could meet poor Prince William, wouldn't have a clue. Would not have a clue what to call him. And I write this. So and every time, and I swear the poor copy editor's like,
the editor's always their comments. I don't think they're called this.
My favorite comment from copy editor was like, I think you might have to change the title of this character because he's not the Duke of fucking Cambridge. I was like, excuse my language there for a minute. It was a bit like, I didn't mean to call him the king of England.
Oh gosh. Oh gosh.
He's so
Oh,
bad. I'm
gosh.
so bad. That's my worst thing. I'm sorry.
That's fantastic. You guys, can I pop in with a couple of questions too from the comments, just so we don't forget them, because we are getting up on time. And if anybody wants to answer a quickie burst to either of these, but oh, Marcy did say Once Upon a Christmas sounds perfect, by the way. Bree says, as the romance genre changes, how do you feel the writing of royalty romance has changed? I think that's the only question, sorry. So we can continue answering that question of what's difficult, and also, how do you think things have changed?
That's a really good question.
Sorry.
I mean, I think for myself, it was like representing different kinds of royalty, because the princesses in the duet that I released this year, they're both Yoruba princesses from Nigeria, and they're very much modern day princesses. Like, Nigeria still very much has a tradition of royalty and of chieftaincy, you know, depending on the region, depending on the ethnic group. So representing that sort of royal, that wasn't a royal I'd ever seen before in Western fiction. So it was fun to put that out there, and some of their traditions, some of the ways that kingship is regarded, you know, and it's very different from other royal families that you might see in other places around the world, and it's very much the same in a lot of ways. So that was something that was cool for me, and I think is representative of modern royal fiction as well. And also the responsibilities. I mean, we mentioned Prince William, you know, he's like involved in climate change initiatives, and he's like, well, you know, call me Will now. Don't call me Your Royal Highness if you meet me in a walkabout. And just the realization, even some of the oldest, most traditional royal houses, as much as they can, are trying to move in a reality that was quite different from the generation that came before. So their causes, the things that they talk about, and the charities they represent, you know, there's hundreds of examples out there.
Yeah, and reflecting that in the books is really key, because it's as we move into a different world ourselves and allow people to see something different. I just think it can be really powerful too. And I love that you brought in Nigerian princesses, and I love that you're bringing in the concept of royalty in Nigeria. And I'm just like, yes, because I like to learn. I started reading Presents because I like to learn. I never thought I'd get to travel like I've gotten to as an adult. So I wanted to see new places in books. I wanted to learn about life I could never live or would never experience. So I am always keen to pick up a book and learn something new. Like, yes. So thank you.
It's a really great book, so you should absolutely.
I think that reminds me. So it kind of reminds me of the scene in Monty Python where they're like, well, who made you king? I think that there's like our culture, our modern world has a different demand of royalty at this moment. So like in Once a Princess, it's a historical. So not only was it written before, it's also set in a previous time. So a king gets to be a different kind of king than a modern king now, that you're right, has to deal with climate change, has to deal with all these modern challenges, with the fact that there is this broader and a growing questioning of legitimacy that has to be answered. And so like that kind of irrelevant, exactly. And so all of that, I think, makes writing it now, because as the author you kind of have to answer that question for each story. Like why does this person deserve to be in this position? What will make them heroic? What will make them good at this job and make them relevant?
I love that. We have only a few minutes left, so I really just want to kind of go around the room again, and please just say what's coming next for you. Like your next book out, whatever, something you are excited to share, anything. So we're going to start with Carrie.
I have A Hero and His Dog coming out from special edition in December, end of December. It's a three-legged dog, and a hero has one of his legs was amputated, so they kind of teach each other to live in the moment.
This book. And Marcella, you're next.
I have I'm really excited. It's called Snowbound in Her Boss's Bed. I have a presents coming out this fall, and what's really, really cool. It's a snowbound. So it's
Very presents title.
Yeah. And it involves her boss. but I really am really excited too, because it's a Hanukkah romance. It's a Hanukkah present. So it takes place over Hanukkah, and it's a Hanukkah miracle involving light too.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, for sure. Teri?
I have a new book coming out August 2nd, and it's called A Line in the Sand. I should have brought one to hold up, but I don't have it. It's a single title book. It has a cute little dog in the corner, but it is about a mermaid and a turtle saving marine biologist.
Oh my gosh.
She's not an actual mermaid. She's like an aquarium mermaid. Like that's her job. She's a professional mermaid. And of course, he thinks she's factually inaccurate. So they are in peace to love her.
I love it.
It turns out she has a really naughty puppy who turns out to have the special ability to sniff out turtle eggs on the beach. So it's very beachy and fun, and it comes out August 2nd. And then, of course, at Christmas, I have Once Upon a Royal Christmas.
I love it.
Nice.
Pippa, you're next.
So I have Claim to Save His Crown coming out in August, which concludes the Royals of Svardia trilogy. Yeah, I'm excited, but not as excited as I am about the hero's conflict for Teri's book, which is that she's factually inaccurate, which I think might be my favorite conflict of all time for a hero.
I love that.
So don't worry about mine. Go and get Teri's.
You're so cute.
Like there's
I'm
facts
really
about
excited too.
mermaids, you know?
I can't tell you, that's really captured my attention. Brilliant.
Jadesola, did you say you have another book with the Nigerian princess, or is coming out?
Oh
soon?
no. Okay. So the one that just came out actually a couple weeks ago is The Princess He Must Marry, which is the second book in the duet. It's in a made-up kingdom in North Africa, just kind of off the side of Morocco. The first one is set in Nigeria and the Seychelles. And I'm editing one right now, not a royal romance, sadly, tears. But it's set in Angola and Portugal. So I'm excited to visit those two places in fiction.
You have to take them
I'm
to
not going to say too
Sintra.
much about it yet, because y'all know how the editing process is. It could look totally different. I mean, it could be set on the moon when it finally comes out.
No,
But for now.
Oh, I love it. Well, we are out of time. Y'all know where to find all of us. I think I put links to everybody's websites in the comment underneath the on YouTube. I'm sorry, I'm losing words. I'm trying to read the comments and make sure there's nothing I need to read before we leave. Really quick. Selma Haywood said, what I love about romance novels from me is tradition. My grandma passed down her Mills and Boons to my mom, and my mom her Harlequins to me. That's so cool. And now I'm doing the same for my daughter. Jadesola, I gifted your book to my daughter.
Nice.
That is so sweet.
Thank you. I hope she enjoys it.
And Dipagram said, I love to read books by all of you guys. Thank you for sharing. Marcy said, awesome destinations, Jadesola. And thanks for such fun, lovely chat, everyone. Bree said, basically lots of thank yous from Bree and Aaron and everyone. And I want to add my thanks. You guys, thank you so much for coming. This was fun. It was a really fun chat, and you guys made it that way. So y'all rock. You just do. And we are going to say goodbye for now, and buy everyone's books, y'all, because they're amazing. And we'll talk later.